Do you want 7 low-hanging fruit SEO opportunities completely free? Stick around because in this video, you're going to learn how to set up a free account of Screaming Frog, run your first crawl, and then identify 7 easy opportunities that are guaranteed to have a positive impact on your SEO. But first, if this is the type of content that you're interested in, go ahead and do us both a favor and like this video and share it out with your other digital marketing friends. And smash that subscribe button, toggle the notification bell so that you can stay up on all the latest tips, tricks, and trends for SEO and digital marketing. But before we can dive into the 7 opportunities, you need to get Screaming Frog and probably understand a little bit about it. Screaming Frog is a website spider crawler that operates very similarly to how other bot or user agents like Google or search engines crawl and identify your site in order to index it. We've talked a little bit about Screaming Frog in the past, and we will certainly continue to talk about it in the future, as it is a robust SEO tool and will help you identify continuous opportunities over time that will certainly have positive impact on your site's SEO. To get started, you're going to need to get Screaming Frog, and as promised, it is free for up to 500 URLs, which for a vast majority of small sites, this will be sufficient. And for those larger sites, you're still going to be able to glean those 7 opportunities from a smaller data set. To do this, go ahead and do a quick Google search for Screaming Frog. The first result will work perfectly. You can also go to screamingfrog.co, and right here you can see the download option. You can compare free versus paid here, but go ahead and hit download. It's going to identify your operating system automatically. If it doesn't, you can switch here, and then you're going to select that download. Once downloaded, follow the installation wizard like you would installing any app on your desktop. You can get fancy with the installation settings, but we recommend to start out to go ahead and select the default installation settings. And just like that, you now have Screaming Frog. Now to run your first crawl. This can get a little tricky depending on the technicality of your website or the website that you want to crawl. But for most sites, it's pretty simple. Go ahead and grab the URL of the index page or the home page of the domain you want to crawl. In this case, we're going to go ahead and use a domain that we have access to. Be sure that whenever you run a crawl that you are abiding by legal terms so that you don't get in any trouble. And then we're going to go over to configuration. To do that, we're just going to come up here to the configuration and the navigation and go to spider and then crawl. Now, depending on how your site renders its information, whether it's a single page application or it uses a lot of JavaScript to make the functionality of the site work, you may need to turn on rendering to JavaScript. For today and for our resources, we're going to leave this at text only. The only other thing that we want to do now is make sure that we are actually ignoring robots.txt just to give us a good picture of the entire site. Another quick pro tip, if you're having trouble running your crawl and nothing's happening, you may also play with changing the user agent from the Screaming Frog SEO Spider to other user agents. We're going to go ahead and leave the mode on Spider, and we're going to come over here to the settings in file, and we are going to make sure that this is actually storing in the database storage. This will allow us to refer back to the crawl in the future, as well as help for anybody who's using a large amount of resources for larger crawls. And then go ahead and hit start, and hopefully based off of the configuration and the settings that we've enabled, you're going to start to see URLs populate in the crawl. And now for the fun stuff, the 7 ways to identify opportunities on your site for free. Number 1 is analyzing your metadata. You can scroll over and look at title tags and meta descriptions in the same view. Now you can see them at bulk, and you can scroll through and ensure that every one of them is unique and present. You also want to strategize that your primary keyword that you're targeting and trying to rank for on a given page is present in both the title tag and meta description. And we like to see them earlier than later inside those elements. The other thing here is you want to make sure that you are not over the character limit in either element so that you don't get truncated or cut off inside the SERPs on search engines. The quickest way to identify opportunities here is to select that column header and sort by so that you are able to now see all of the URLs that don't have any title tag or meta description. You can then filter those down to URLs that have a 200 status code. This is indicative that these are URLs that should have these elements present. Which brings us to opportunity 2. That is identifying all of the non-200 status URLs on your site so that you can strategically go and remove them from internal links. A similar strategy here is to go ahead and filter by that status code And now we have a list of URLs that are internally linked to, that are being found in that spider crawler, and that are not 200 status. So we can start to go in and systematically replace those with their destination URL, or the URL that should be linked there. Otherwise, we can remove the link altogether. These two opportunities are already going to have a dramatic impact on your SEO, depending on where your site is already. Opportunity number 3 is then to identify missing or duplicate elements. Title tags and meta descriptions we talked a little bit about, but also headers, H1s, H2s, and H3s, and to filter to see if we're missing those elements or if we're seeing duplicate elements across the site. If you've got this far in the video and haven't yet already identified a low-hanging fruit opportunity, you're either killing it with your site, or you may want to go back and review these steps and ensure that you've understood the concepts fully. Opportunity number 4 is identifying redirect chains. If you're not familiar with a redirect, that's essentially when you have to change a URL for one reason or another, and you want to make sure that anybody clicking to that URL from anywhere else on the internet or on your site doesn't end up nowhere, but they head back to the new URL that was changed. Many times, because of how redirects are implemented at scale, what can happen is they start to redirect to URLs that are redirecting, ultimately creating a chain of redirects, really muddying up our crawl budget and our link equity that we're passing through our site. So to find these, you can come up here to the navigation and select reports, come down to redirects and select redirect chains. Now you can select where you want to save this report to, and the format being CSV, and then go ahead and hit save. If you've got Excel, you can pull it up in Excel. In my case, I've imported it into Google Sheets, and now really quickly I can see the number of redirects that a URL is involved in and whether or not it's participating in a redirect loop, which is essentially an endless cycle of redirects causing the crawler to go on to infinity, which is really bad for search engines. And in this report, you can see not only where the URL was found, but then of course, what are the URLs that are being redirected to, and then so on, so that you can go and make the final destination URL in its place so that you don't have this crawl budget issue with redirecting to redirects. Opportunity 5 is identifying missing or duplicate alt text in your images. Alt text is essentially how search engines can understand an image, use it for accessibility readers, as well as index it for image search. It is crucial for your images to have alt text relevant to the primary keyword that you want it to rank for, as well as to what it actually is and what it does on your page. To find these, you can come up to this navigation here and select images. You can highlight any one of these images or a number of them or all of them, Control A, and then you can come down here into the image details and scroll over, and you're looking for that alt text. And really quickly, you're now going to find opportunities for images that are missing alt text or that have duplicate alt text. Additionally, you can export this report to use to track your work or to send to a developer. Which brings us to the 6th process to identify opportunities using internal linking and crawl depth or link depth. To do this, you can go back up and toggle to those internal URLs, and you can scroll over until you see crawl depth. Right out of the gate, we're going to get a list of URLs and their link depth, or how many URLs have to be crawled until they can find this URL. Similarly, you can come up to that column header and you can filter or sort by that number so that we can look now at all of the URLs that have more than what we like to see, 4 or 5 crawl depth. You're wondering, why is this important, or what opportunities can be found here? If you come up to the visualization, you can create what's called a force-directed crawl diagram. And what this is going to do is it's going to show a visualization of how the crawler has identified, or where it's identified, all those URLs. And as you can see in this example, there is a lot going on here. We're finding URLs from parents that are not indexable. We're finding URLs outwards of 8 clicks from the index page. And what this does is it makes it very difficult to identify a page rank or a page hierarchy, which can be difficult to help you rank pages that are further out. ultimately, the standard here is that we're trying to keep URLs in a hierarchy that allows them to be closer to the index page and categorically segmented to help those pages be more unique and ultimately rank better for particular queries. So as you start to audit URLs, you want to look and see if there are opportunities to get them closer to the index page by putting them in a respective category and to do away with some of the things like pagination. And after you start working on this for some time, you're going to start to see that your site looks more like this, which is a good indicator that you have a solid site structure, site hierarchy, which is going to help you rank pages in the future easier. Which brings us to the seventh and final process for identifying low-hanging opportunities, and that is whether or not your URLs are indexable. Now, there are 4 key components to making sure a URL is indexable. Number 1, it has to have a 200 status code. Number 2, it needs to be internally linked, so you have to be able to find it from somewhere on the site or in your sitemap. Number 3, it has to have a self-referencing canonical, meaning you're not telling Google that there's another page that is more of a priority or more indicative of a particular keyword you want to rank for. It itself is the canonical URL. And then number 4, whether or not it is blocked by robots.txt in the robots.txt file or in the meta robots tag itself. Now, it's a good idea to go check for each one of these for any given URL, but Screaming Frog also makes it really easy by looking at this indexability column. You can filter by indexability, and then right out of the gate we can see what URLs are not considered indexable and why they're not considered indexable, which can help streamline this process considerably. And then of course you can go ahead and export those URLs to work from that list or send to a developer. And you guys, just like that, you now have 7 processes that we use as professional SEOs to identify opportunities for your site completely free. You can do it tomorrow. If you like this type of content and you found this valuable, do us a favor, like this video, share it out, and subscribe so that you can stay up on all the latest videos that we're going to be putting out for SEO and digital marketing. This is Quinn with RunLeadGen, and we'll see you next time.